Hi students, good morning everyone. So students, today we will study a new chapter of science, that is chapter number 6, living and non-living things. Okay, so you all get ready with your books, take your books along with you and go along with the explanation. Alright, keep your books with you. So students, you have already studied about living and non-living things in your previous classes, right? In first class, in class 2, you have already studied about living and non-living things. You know what is living things and you know what is non-living things. Yes? So students, in this chapter we will study more about living and non-living things. What are the different characteristics of living and non-living things. So first we will see the contents. What are we going to study in this chapter? Okay? So students, first we will study about what is living and what is non-living things. Then we will study some differences between living things and non-living things and also their characteristics. Okay, what are the different characteristics of living things? Alright, so first let us begin with living and non-living things. Okay. So students, let us start with living and non-living things. I will read out the points that is written in the slide. Pay attention, okay? We see a wide variety of things around us. Some of them are living, whereas others are non-living. We see many things around us. Yes or no? There are many things around us. And in those things, some are living things and some are non-living things. Alright? All animals and plants are living things, the things that we see around. The things that we see around in them, the animals and the plants, the insects, the human beings that we see. These are all what? These are living things. And the non-living things are what? The stones, the mountains, the oceans, the seas, the rivers. Okay, these are natural things that are non-living. And the man-made things which are non-living are like table, chair, the vehicles that you see around, okay, the buildings, okay, then the pencil, eraser, whatever you use in your daily life, all these things are non-living. And why they are non-living things? Because they do not have life. Okay, see, it is also written there, all animals and plants are living things. Humans are also living things as they have life and can move, grow, breathe, need food, feel changes and reproduce. These are some characteristics of living things. If you are asked what are the characteristics of living things, you will say that living things have got life, okay, so they can move, they can grow, they can breathe, they need food to eat so that they stay alive, they can feel the changes around, the changes that is occurring around them, they can feel them, they can feel it, okay, and they can also reproduce. All living things reproduce. Reproduce means to give birth of their own kind. Alright. Now, what are non-living things? Non-living things are those which do not have life. Non-living things are those which do not have life. They cannot move, they cannot grow, they don't breathe, they don't eat food, they don't need food to eat because they can stay alive even if they don't eat. Okay? Then they cannot feel any kind of changes that is occurring around them and they cannot reproduce. Can table and chair, can they reproduce? No. Can mountain reproduce? No, it cannot reproduce. Mountains are only formed by the natural phenomenon. Hence, they are said to be as non-living things. Okay? So now let us move to the next point. So now the first characteristic of living things, that is living things move. Living things can move from one place to another. Point number 1, living things like animals and human beings can move on their own. We human beings, the animals, they can move from one place to another. Okay, but not plants. Plant is also a living thing, but they cannot move from one place to another. They show their movement or their growth in some other way. Okay, as we are human being, if we want to go from one place to another, we can move on our own. We can walk and go. Even the animals, if they want to go somewhere or if they want to move from one place to another, they move by themselves. Yes or no? And why do animal moves from one place to another? See, animals move from one place to another in search of food and shelter. Why do they move? So that they can get some food and to find the shelter. Shelter means a place so that they can live in. That is why animals move from one place to another in search of food and shelter. That is why it is said that living things can move. Hence, animals and human beings are living things, so they can move on their own. Okay? Animals move with the help of their legs. Okay? Animals and human beings, they move with the help of their legs. Alright? And then birds move with the help of their wings and fishes move with the help of the fins. Yes or no? I am just giving you an example of bird and fish and animals. Like for example, you say dog. They move on their leg. They move from one place to another by themselves by walking on their leg. Okay. And if a bird needs to move from one place to another, it uses its wings to fly from one place to another. And fish, how do they move? They move with the help of their fins. Okay, they move with the help of their fins. Then students, plants. Since plants is also a living thing, but they do not move from one place to another. We human beings, animals, birds, fishes, insects, they move from one place to another. Why? So that they can get their food and to find a shelter so that they can live in it. But plants do not need a shelter or they do not need a food to eat. Have you ever seen a plant eating food or staying in a house? No. They prepare their own food, so that is why they do not need to move from one place to another. Plants do not move from one place to another as they do not have to search food. Green plants make their own food. Since plants do not need to go around for searching food for themselves, why? Because they can prepare their own food, and students, only green plants can prepare their own food. Okay, so that is why plants do not move from one place to another. And some plants show movement in a special way, and if you want to see some movement in plants, there are some special plants that they show the movement. Okay, for example, the leaves of mimosa. Mimosa is a plant. It is also called as touch me not plant. If you touch the leaves of the plant, the leaf automatically closes itself. This shows the movement. This shows that the plants has got life and they can move. Okay. So this is an example. The leaves of mimosa, touch me not plant, closes when touched. If you touch the leaves of the mimosa plant, the leaves will close. Okay, the leaves of the mimosa plant will close themselves. Thus, this shows the plant movement. Okay. And students, the next characteristic of living thing is that living thing grow. Okay, the first one was living things can move, and the second one is living things can grow. Okay, plants and animals grow with time, and non-living things do not grow. Okay, for example, plant, it grows from a seed to a sapling to a baby plant, and that baby plant grows to a mature big plant. Okay, so this shows that plants grow, and even animals and human beings, when they are born, they are small babies. With the passage of time, they grow when they eat food. Okay, they grow from a small baby to a child, and from a child to a boy or a girl, and from a boy or a girl they grow into an adult. Okay, you can see the picture and you can make out. So this is also the characteristic of a living things. It is that living things grow. Okay. The next characteristics of living things is that living things can breathe. You breathe or not? You can breathe. How do you breathe? You breathe with your nose. In the same way, different animals and different living things, they breathe so that they can stay alive. Okay? All living things need air to breathe. Human beings breathe through nose, and several other animals breathe through their noses. Cockroaches, butterflies and mosquitoes breathe through air holes present in their body. Plants breathe through tiny holes called stomata present in their leaves. As animals and human beings breathe, plants also breathe. How do plants breathe? They breathe with the help of stomata. Stomata is the tiny pores that is present on the below of the leaves. Okay, if you see in the microscope, you can see tiny openings on the leaves of plant, that is called as stomata, which helps them to exchange the gases to breathe in and breathe out. You can see in the picture. That is stomata. It is a tiny hole in the leaf, and some insects like cockroaches, butterfly, then mosquitoes, these all they have air holes in their bodies. You can see the picture of the cockroach and you can see some dots on its body. Those are the air holes through which they can breathe. And human beings and some animals like dog, cat, cow, giraffe, buffalo, okay, these are some animals which breathe through their nose. Fishes breathe through their gills. Okay. So these are some animals which can breathe. This is the characteristic of living things, that they can breathe. Okay. Because living things need air to live. Okay. The next characteristic is living things need food. We need food to live. Animals eat food to live. Human beings need food to live. Insects, birds, fishes, they all need food to live. But plants do not need food. Why? Because they can make their own food. They do not eat food. Okay? Living things need food to grow, as it gives energy to walk and move. And why do living things need food? So that they can grow, and it gives energy to work and to move from one place to another. Alright. The next point is, animals eat plant or flesh of the other animals as food. Some animals, like some wild animals, they eat the flesh of other animals to stay alive. And some herbivorous animals, like they used to eat plants, okay, so that they can stay alive. Then plants do not need to go in search of food. They make their own food in presence of air, water and light. Okay, and the process by which the plants prepare their own food, it is called as photosynthesis. Okay, the process by which the plants prepare their own food, it is called as photosynthesis. Since the green plants can make their own food, that is why they do not need to go in search of food from one place to another. But non-living things, they do not need food. They do not need food to stay alive. Okay? And another characteristic of living thing is that living things feel changes. The changes that occurs around you, living things can feel it. Like the cold weather, hot weather. Okay? If you touch an hot object, you can feel the hotness of that. Okay? And if somebody touches you, you can feel their touch. Yes or no? So these are some changes or some feelings that living things can feel. Okay? Living things can feel changes around them such as cold and hot weather, touch, etc. If somebody touch you, you can feel it, right? Because you are a living thing. Even if you touch an animal, they can feel it. Okay? If you touch an insect, they can feel it. Okay? Then most of the animals can feel or sense changes around them with the help of sense organ. And how can living things can feel the change? They can feel the change by using their sense organ. Okay? And what are the sense organ of our body? Like eyes, nose, ears, tongue, skin. Yes or no? With the eyes we can see what is happening around and can see the changes around. With the ears we can hear the sound that is coming from our surrounding. With the nose we can smell. Okay? Then tongue we can taste the different type of dishes or different type of taste we can take with our tongue. Skin can feel the changes in the climate. Okay? Some animals have special body parts that help them to feel changes around them, like antennae in ant, cockroaches, grasshopper and butterfly. But how do these insects feel the changes that is happening around them? As we human beings and animals have got their sense organs, in the same way insects also have some sense organ that is called as antennae. You can see in the picture ANTENNAE, that is called as antennae. You may have seen cockroach, right? They have two long hairs on their head. Yes or no? That is called as antennae. When they move around, they can sense what is happening around them. They can feel the changes around them using those antennae. It helps them to feel the changes around them. And students, the next characteristic is that living things can reproduce. Living things can reproduce. Reproduce means to give birth of its own kind. What is reproduce or reproduction? It means to give birth of its own kind. Alright. The process by which living things produce more of their own kind is called reproduction. Now, if you are asked what is reproduction, what will you say? Reproduction is the process by which living things can produce more of their own kind. That is called as reproduction. Okay, where living things give birth to their small babies or their young ones. But non-living things cannot reproduce themselves. Can a table reproduce a table again? No, it cannot reproduce. Okay? The mountains, can it reproduce a new mountain? No, it cannot reproduce. So living things cannot reproduce. Living things do not have the characteristics that a living thing has. Alright? Then animals reproduce either by laying eggs or by giving birth. And animals, how do they reproduce? They reproduce either by laying eggs. For example, like hen, duck, snake, crocodile, they all what? They all lay eggs to give birth to the young ones. Okay, and animals like dog, cat, cow, buffalo, deer, elephant, human beings, what do? They reproduce by giving birth. They give birth to small babies of their own kind. Understood? Then plants. How do plants reproduce? Plant is also a living thing. How do they reproduce? Plants reproduce with the help of seed which grow into a new plant, which is also called as germination. The process by which a seed grows into a new plant, that process is called as germination. And this is how plants reproduce a new plant of its own kind by germination. Okay, and non-living things, they do not reproduce. Okay, I hope you understood this. So what are the characteristics of living thing? That living things can move. Okay, all the living things can move from one place to another so that they can get their food and they can get their shelter. Okay, some animals, they move with the help of legs, and some animals, they uses their wings. Like birds, they use their wings. Fishes, they use their fins. Okay, and animals and humans, they use their legs to move from one place to another. Then plants is also a living thing, but they cannot move from one place to another. Instead, they show some special kind of movement. For example, a plant like mimosa, that is touch me not plant. If you touch the leaf of that plant, it will close itself, which proves that plant is also a living thing and they can also show some movement. Okay, then living things can grow. All living things, plants and animals, they grow, but non-living things, they do not grow. A small seed grow into a sapling. From sapling, they grow into a baby plant, and that baby plant, they grow into a fully matured plant. And animals, they grow from small babies to animals, and human beings, from babies, they turn into a kid, children or a kid, then a girl or a boy, and from a girl or a boy, they grow into an adult. Okay, then all living things, they breathe. We need all the living things, they need air to breathe. Animals and human beings, they breathe through their nose. Okay, and some other animals have got some other special organs in their bodies which help them in breathing. For example, like butterfly, cockroaches, mosquitoes, they breathe with the air holes that is present in their body, and plants, they breathe with the help of stomata that is present in the leaves of a plant. Then living things need food to eat. Without food, living things cannot survive. So they need food so that they can get energy to move and to work. Okay, animals eat to survive. Animals, some carnivorous animals, they eat the flesh of other animals, and herbivores, they eat green plants. Okay, and we human beings, or you can also call them as omnivores, they eat both plant and animal to stay alive. And plant, they do not go in search of food. As they are living thing, they do not go in search of food. Why? Because they can make their own food. Okay, and non-living things, they do not need food to survive, as they do not have life. To sustain life, we need air, water and food to live. Okay, then living things can also feel change. I already told you, they have got some sense organs through which they can feel the changes that is happening around them. Okay, then some animals have got some special body parts through which they can feel the changes around them. For example, like ant, cockroach, grasshopper and butterfly, they use their antennae, the long hairy-like structure on their head, with the help of which they can feel the changes that is occurring around them. Okay? Then living things can reproduce. All living things, they reproduce of their own kind, and the process by which a living thing produces more of its own kind, it is called as reproduction. Some animals, they reproduce by laying eggs and some by giving birth. Okay? And plants reproduce with the help of seed which grow into a new plant, and that process is called as germination. And non-living things, they do not reproduce. Okay? Now let us see the differences between living and non-living things. So students, turn to page number 64. It is written there, differences between living and non-living things. Okay, page number 64, differences between living and non-living things. So it is written there, see, the difference between living and non-living things are summarized in the table below. You can see the table, and it is also written in the slide. You can see living things can move on their own, but non-living things cannot move on their own. The first difference, the first point, that is, living things can move on their own, but non-living things cannot move on their own. Second point is, living things grow with time. With the passage of time, living things grow, but non-living things do not grow with time. They remain the same as they are, but living things, they show some changes and they grow. Okay? Then living things need air to breathe. All living things need air to breathe, but non-living things do not need air to breathe, as they do not breathe. Okay? Point number 4. Living things need food to grow. All living things need food to grow, and non-living things, they do not need any food, as they do not grow. They do not have life. Okay? Then point number 5 is, living things feel changes around them. All the living things can feel the changes around them. And how do they feel their changes? With the help of their sense organs. Okay? And non-living things do not feel changes around them, as they do not have any sense organ. Okay? Living things can reproduce. All living things reproduce their own kind, but non-living things, they do not reproduce. And examples of living things, you can say it is human beings, animals and plants. These are the examples of living things. And the examples of non-living things are book, pencil, bat. These are the examples of non-living things. Okay? So I hope you understood this chapter. You will soon get the worksheet related with this chapter. Till then, take care of yourselves and study well at home.